Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome from a bit windy, overcast Bournemouth Sunday afternoon. I just thought I would do a quick video, walk and a talk, as it were, just to have a little chat about one or two things that have happened over the last week or two, or been mentioned, or whatever. And although most of you will probably be aware of most of what I'll be addressing, it's nice to sometimes revisit one or two points and remind ourselves of all the shenanigans that we're subjected to, surrounded by, however you want to put it. Anyway, it's Remembrance Sunday today, as it were, although it's not the 11th of November. And so there's been, of course, a big remembrance gathering in London at the Cenotaph in Whitehall, where all our so-called leaders and dignitaries, as it were, gather and in pomp and ceremony and lay down wreaths to remember those who have given their lives, pretend to remember, I should say. And you know, every year, every time I watch it, I kind of get a more sickening feeling, and it's nothing at all to do with not showing respect to anybody who's given their lives to any cause, by the way. It's to do with how it gets used to it does every year, to kind of unify the country and all that sort of thing. You know, get behind the flag, be patriotic, and if you're not, then you know, be prepared to sort of get banished to the fringes of your your local environment or whatever it is. But anyway, yeah, and I paid a little bit of attention to that, and you know, noticed also that the Queen was missing today, and allegedly, from that ceremony, that is, and allegedly she was missing because she had a back sprain. You know, bless her. You know what I mean? And save her as well, please. I hope she does get saved. It says it in the national anthem, so I'm sure she'll be all right. So she clearly needs a bit of saving there. So, you know, good luck to her on that one. Yeah. But anyway, it's funny how these sort of ceremonies all come in quick succession. You know, we just had Guy Fawkes night. For those non-Brits who are unaware, Guy Fawkes is a guy who, according to our history books, tried to blow up our Houses of Parliament with a few barrels of gunpowder and got caught just in time. And saved our democracy. Yes, and that event ggets celebrated every year on the 5th of November in the form of a bonfire, where they put up a straw man, nice name, and burn them at the top of a pile of wood or whatever. So following on from that, you have then your Remembrance Sunday or your Remembrance Week or whatever it is, depending on how the dates fall, and then you continue to be kept in that mindset of being a Brit who's always faced adversity, who's always had to fight on their own, who, you know, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, puke, really, as far as I'm concerned. But they're the narratives that are given to all these different nations in their own way. We have them abroad in France and all the other countries as well. But interestingly, Germany, for example, do not do this sort of thing at all. I've lived there for years and years and years. I'm half German myself, and you know, they don't keep going on that trip of reminding people about their patriotic past and all the rest of it. And yeah, people can argue, well, they've got nothing to be proud of because of their Nazi stuff that went down in World War II. Well, first of all, if you're going to reduce Germany's history down to that event of World War II, then I'm afraid you have no idea what you're talking about, because it's a much older region than the history books tell us, even though the country of Germany didn't exist in the form it does now until the Weimar Republic kicked in and all that sort of stuff. That's a topic for another day. But generally speaking, those peoples have been around for a long time. But yet in this country, we seem to always get stuck with this, or fed with this nationalistic mumbo jumbo, or patriotistic. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. So that is what's going down at the moment. Yeah, I always used to remember when I used to meet up with my grandparents, like my German grandparents or whatever. You know, they went through, for example, the Second World War as well. But of course, it's from a different angle, isn't it? It's from the German side. And you're never really taught these things. I certainly remember in school getting a very, very, very one-sided education when it came to all the wars that Britain partook in, and how we were always the ones fighting a noble cause. And this is it, isn't it? It's that virtue signalling on so many levels, claiming the moral high ground in anything that people do in this country. That's how it's sold. And the same goes for all this nonsense at the moment, which leads me nicely to another topic, actually, because one of those countries who also has a very deep history, according to our history books, is Austria. And Austria is not only a landlocked country, not that that matters, but I don't know if you've heard, but very recently they have now passed something in their parliament whereby they are going to lock down or enforce a lockdown on all citizens in Austria that have not been vaccinated. There's a couple of regions that allegedly have been so badly hit that they're going to systematically keep millions of people in lockdown. Now that, of course, is an interesting development. I sat on it for a few days. I didn't really talk about it. I didn't really mention it too much. I kept my eye on it, but I think that's quite a harrowing development in terms of narrative, because it shows you exactly where this is going. Without me wanting to fearmonger, but look it up. It's in a lot of the broadsheets and everything else. They talk about it, and if you go onto the governmental websites, you can read it. You can see a translation in English if your German's not very good, and then you can see exactly what's going on. But it's pretty heavy stuff, in my opinion, of course, because you know the moral of today here in this country is lest we forget. Well, lest we forget. For example, that this was all based on total and utter nonsense and fabricated figures in the first place. And yet, you know, the end of 2021, and the can is still being kicked down the road. People are still going along with it, and nothing much has really changed in that sense. Anyway, I was going off on a tangent there, which is unlike me. So that was the business with Austria, which I find quite interesting. One thing that was also mentioned, by the way, straight after that I noticed earlier, was that they were talking about migrants here in the UK as well. Again, another narrative to make the Brits feel they're on their own, battling this migration pest that no other country allegedly has to deal with. And it's historically always the thing that the Brits have to deal with. And poor us, and look at us, and this and the other. Well, according to their figures, 1,185 people tried to reach the UK across the English Channel on Thursday. 1,185 people. I don't know how many rowing boats that is, but go figure. Anyway, and just to mention that, by the way, I wanted to say this as well. And that is that many years ago, I visited a country called Republic of Georgia. This was back in 2008. And on the evening of the open ceremony in Beijing, Georgia was attacked by the Russians. And we were in a town that got bombed that evening, a town called Poti, P-O-T-I, which is on the Black Sea coast. It's an old Greek settlement. It's along the, I don't know, according to the books, the Jason of the Argonaut story and all that sort of thing. Allegedly, it all came through that region. Yeah, I was going to come to a point there that I've, of course, forgotten. But, oh yes, the point I was going to make, see, goldfish memory, those who know. I'm sure you'll be sniggering hearing this now. But anyway, yeah, the reason why I'm saying that is because when we tried to get back from Georgia, there was myself, my partner at the time, and her cousin, 3 of us. It took us 3 whole days to get back from Georgia to Germany with money. So explain to me how thousands of migrants managed to travel thousands of miles across a continent like Europe, and then also board boats and then just sail across the English Channel and then get picked up on the English coast. And I don't know about you, call me a conspiracy theorist, but those stories don't add up. And again, this is the narrative that's been pushed, and it fell in line with the whole Brexit thing. Again, you know, migration or immigration was one of the main arguing points for us wanting to leave, as it were, the European Union. which again, on a bit closer examination, that again is nonsense, because the UK or whatever country, they're all tied in to an ultimate system. That's why agendas like this work so well. But anyway, yeah, I thought I'd just mention that. So it just goes to show you, if you just add 2 and 2 together, if it took us 3 days to get back from a country, and that was with money, then how long would it, take people who, first of all, how would they earn thousands of pounds? And secondly, how would they get across the continent anyway? Now, I know it's an old story that a few of us have covered in the past, but it's worth revisiting, because it's, again, a narrative that keeps getting pushed. And people need to really just pay a bit more attention to it all. It's a bit like hosepipe bans in England. I've said this before as an example, and I'll say it again. How can you have a hosepipe ban, which means basically stopping people from washing their cars because UK has a drought once a year, when we're surrounded by water? Answers on a postcard, please. Anyway, moving on from that, of course, there was this other little matter of COP26. And I'm just going to mention this very quickly, because this is something that we learned at school when I was a kid or a teenager. And it's something that they're going back on now on a narrative, I've noticed. And that is that COP26, they've decided that the use of coal will be phased down and not phased out, which goes totally against the narrative that we've been fed for the last decades, that coal was running out. And not just that, it was one of the biggest reasons why this planet, we're not on a planet, is, at the behest of an irreversible process called global warming. We're not on a globe. Second lie. So, bearing all that in mind, I think that's quite interesting. And I hope people take note of that as well, because they're the little things that get said that often go unnoticed. And this is on the back of a new climate deal that was reached in Glasgow last night, allegedly. I would hedge a bet that nothing was reached last night at all, that this is all already mapped out, and we're just getting the storyline fed to us, like always. But that's just my own personal opinion on it. So I thought I'd just bring you that, really, as a little bit of tidbits that I sort of cottoned onto along the way. One thing I do want to mention, though, I've got to say, is something that I read and heard about regarding the employment sector here in the UK, and that is that there was a big talk about so-called Plan Bs and all that sort of thing here, lockdown related, and they were discussing in particular the scrutiny techniques of employers, right? And what they're doing is they're actually discussing openly now about the 3 at home, 2 in the office format, because they're trying to encourage people to more and more to work from home. So this is supposed to be all post-lockdown, that they're going to start, basically, which we knew already, have more and more people working from home, which of course ticks lots of boxes. It gets them less interacting with each other. It has them more, tuned into online, and more and more activities and things like that will be happening online. I mean, they already are. But, this is all going towards this big push. It's been going on now for a while, actually, to keep people, socialising less and less, interacting less and less, doing the stuff that we should really be doing less and less. Whether you're talking social distance, wearing stuff on your face, all that symbolic stuff that people have been kind of forced to do, it all plays into that whole notion of keeping people nice and isolated from each other with time. You can see that now with all these events that are going down, with people suddenly allegedly being injected with things in clubs and pubs here in the UK. And you can see it now in lots of gatherings where there are so-called incidents happening. All, in my opinion, again, it's part of a push to discourage people from going to gatherings and all that sort of stuff. Again, my opinion, and I'm basing it purely on the reports that I've been reading and seeing in the rags and the media outlets in general. So I thought I'd just mention that as well. So that will be something that will get ramped up, no doubt, very, very soon. Anyway, that was about it really from me. I just wanted to show my face, I nearly said. It's one thing I haven't done, is show my face, but I thought I'd just put a video out because I wanted to, and there's a couple of things that I just wanted to get off my chest and just verbalise more than anything else really, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's being said and announced and this, that and the other that is going unnoticed. I have noticed that, but then that's been a feature, hasn't it, in the last year or two. Distractions are aplenty, and that is all part of you know, the bigger plan, whatever that may be. But yeah, so there we have it. So that was a church that I was just stood at there, by the way. It's called Clement Church, and it's one of quite a few churches we have here, big ones, in the Boscombe area of Bournemouth. And I am just going down a road called Knoll Road here in Boscombe, and then we will be walking past a building that houses those who are in a massive way responsible for all of this. I may as well say it, nonsense. But anyway, here we go. So this is a place where we were going to do a demo, actually, not so long ago, only a couple of months ago. And I came down here with a friend and we did a recce and all that, this, that and the other. But interestingly enough, and this is how deep the indoctrinations lie and go and all that sort of stuff, when it came to it, a lot of people got cold feet around it. Which I'm trying to understand, but I still can't fathom out really why. Because either you're standing up against something or you're not. So that's all I'm going to say to that. I never said anything really. I never really voiced my opinion on that. But to be honest with you, that is one of the reasons why I've backed off a little bit from everything. And I'm going to do now what I've been discussing with close friends and everything else. And that is that it's time to get your side of the street clean. Go internal. Make sure your stuff is sorted. So you can then deal with everything else that's going on. Because, you know, as far as I can see, there ain't any unity there at all. That's my opinion on it. So anyway, on that note, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope you all had a good weekend. I hope you have a good and serene week this week. And I will endeavour to put out a video, a proper new segment video at some stage. This was just a bit of a walk and a talk, and I need to get out a bit of fresh air and just talk. It's almost like talking to somebody, but it's not. It's the closest I can get to that sort of therapy at the moment, but it's all right. It's all right. It's all good. But there we go. On a day when we're asked to remember, because that's what we're always asked to do. Yeah, here we are outside a building that knows very well about where we've come from and where this is all going. So on that note, enjoy the rest of your Sunday and speak to you very soon. Some of you sooner. Ta-ta for now.